sometimes the best way to answer a question is with a video. And I'm also wanting to start a new series where I answer questions and do it in a way so that more than one person can benefit, because if one person has the question, it's likely that other people do, and even if other people don't, they're probably going to still enjoy learning about that topic. So hopefully this is something that will be of value to players trying to learn EVE in general, but mostly solo PvP. So this first question comes from the EVE Pro Guides forum. It's in the solo PvP forum here. UI, zoom levels, and keyboard shortcuts, which are the main questions here. And he says he wants to know if I could talk a little bit about the zoom level of my user interface. He notices that in my frigate videos I sit back a lot and zoomed out quite a bit. And do I ever zoom in? Next question is, do you spiral? I know you're not a big fan of manual piloting. And can you do that at the zoom level? So let's get started. Before we go any further, let's just knock out a couple of these really quick. Let's skip this the zoom in, zoom out one, because I'll do that with the video. But for the spiral, yes, I do spiral, but only when it's needed. Spiraling only really matters against turret-based ships, not against missile ships. And if you're already really close, a lot of times it's better just to go straight in than it is to spiral, because if you can take a shot or two and then know that you're not going to take any shots once you're in close at, say, 500 orbiting, then it's maybe in your best interest to hurry up and get a quick tackle, more so than to try to do the perfect spiral. Another misconception is that spiraling is spiraling. Spiraling is not really spiraling. Let me do this. Alright, so for spiraling, I'm going to try to do this quick because I don't want these videos to be really long. I want to try to keep them under 10 minutes. There's your target. There's you. No, that's not you. That's you. Alright. And so we got a brush. Now, to spiral, what you do basically is you use your camera to decide the direction you want to go, and then you double click in the direction you want to go. That's basically manual piloting. Just double click in the direction you want to go. So what we want to do is, if this is a turret-based ship, let's say it's a Arty Sveipool, a Arty Munin, a railgun MOA, I don't know. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's a turret ship, and you're coming in from range wanting to get in close under his guns, right? If you're already right here, like within 5-10K, just go in and just get your orbit. But if you need to come from range, what you do is you double click at about 30 degrees. That's not 30 degrees. Okay. It's still not quite 30. Good enough. Can't be a perfectionist. 30 degrees off to the side of the target. Then, once you get to the point to where, you know, maybe you're going to be moving further away instead of getting closer, somewhere before that point, you want to turn in across the target. And then once you get to that point again, you want to turn again, double click again. So you would double click, move along the line here, move along this line. Then once you got close to even with the target, to where you're about to start moving away from him, you know, right in there somewhere, you want to turn again. And then same thing, once you're starting to get to where you're moving away instead of towards, you know, maybe even a little bit sooner, you want to turn again, then turn again, and then spiral. So it's actually just a couple turns followed by an orbit 500 is really what a spiral amounts to. So that's a spiral. As for manual piloting, here's what I'll say about that. A lot of people try to act like manual piloting is elite PvP. It's not. It's absolutely not. Manual piloting is important in some situations, but it's the least of your concern when you're learning PvP. The most important things that you need to focus on when you learn PvP and solo PvP specifically is 3 categories, which is going to be the topic of a future video and article I'm doing. The 3 pillars of PvP. That's your preparation, your plan, and your execution. Okay? Your preparation is your fitting, understanding how that fit works, what that fit's strengths and weaknesses are. Your plan is how you plan on doing the fight, which ships you plan on fighting. the tactics you plan on using, right? The execution is the actual fight. Setting up the isolation, executing the fight, and those three things are where you're really going to make the most improvements. Get a good fit, get a good plan, good tactics, and then execute and practice and repeat and repeat and repeat and keep doing it over and over and over, building muscle memories and building instincts. And using something like OBS Studio, which just check my website, I've got an article on how to set it up, free recording software for Eve, really easy to set up. Record your fights, go back and review them and get better. And I guarantee you, you'll get better really quick using that. So those are the three things you really need to focus on. Manual piloting is just something that you'll learn along the way naturally, so don't worry about it. Down here we got keyboard shortcuts. Yes, I use them. No, I do not use them as much as I should. It's something that I'm working on. One of my bad habits is I tend to click around more than I should instead of using the keyboard shortcuts. But in general, I use F1 through F4. I use all drones engage hotkey. It's not the default. All drones return, not the default. I use a different one because I was using it before it was a default. Alt space to stop my ship in warp or just while it's flying. And then Control B would be to set a bookmark as I'm flying through space, or maybe setting up a tactical perch, whatever you want to call it. Those are my basic shortcuts. So now let's talk more about zooming in and zooming out. So I don't want that. I want that. All right, so the answer to that question is it's mostly just something you do out of instinct, but there is some rhyme to the reason. So reason to the rhyme, whatever. Okay, so there is some reasoning behind it, and that is that the more hectic the situation is, usually you want to be zoomed out. The faster you're moving, you want to be zoomed out. The more people on the field, you want to be zoomed out. In general, I try to keep the entire grid, all the ships on the grid, on my screen. So I want to keep good grid awareness. That's what I want to do. I want to maintain grid awareness, know not just where the ships are, but I also want to know visually which direction they're flying, how fast they're flying. The overview is great. Radial velocity is awesome, knowing if something's coming at you or going away. But that's not something that's going to catch your eye in the middle of a fight. In the middle of a fight, if you see something like a little frigate, interceptor or something just taking off across the screen towards you, then you're going to say, whoa, I got something else incoming. I need to pay attention to that for a second. And it's going to help you to be aware of what's going on so you don't get in a situation where all of a sudden you're in big trouble. So what I want you to do, I'm in a dual armor repair Myrmidon with an MJD. So Myrmidon, drones, autocannons, scramweb, microwarp drive, MJD, and then a AAR, medium AAR, and a Tech 2 medium armor repair. Pretty standard Myrmidon. I'm in tribute, and I've got some people trying to kill me. You can see right now I'm at a tactical, and I'm not going to do this quite like a normal video where I would be talking you through it. I'll do some of that, but I want to just kind of focus more on the zoom. So right now you can see I'm zoomed out pretty far. I'm going to warp down to gate because I want to catch these guys' attention. It looks like something maybe I can play with. I'm going to jump in. Got a saber on scan, saber landing. So we got a stiletto and a saber. Saber's a really good target for me. I love killing sabers. They're decently valuable, and they don't have the best tanks. Or at least reasonable tanks. So it's typically going to be less than 10k for a saber tank. Sometimes you can see 12 or 13k. EHP, they're typically shield buffers. Alright, so what I want to do, and you can see I'm zoomed out here, so I have both ships on my screen, plus a little bit of extra room. I could zoom in just a little bit to get more differentiation on them. Doesn't matter too much. There's just two ships here, and right now there's really no threat to me. These two ships could shoot at me for an hour straight and not kill me, but we are in their space, so they can call in reinforcements. So what I want to do first here is I just want to charge the saber. I'm not interested in the stiletto right now. He's going to keep range most likely if he's smart. So I want to go in and just rage on the saber. He was trying to get the tackle for all his buddies, being a little bit overzealous. He ran in close to drop his bubble. Not a good move. I want to get in on that Saber and let my drones do most of the work, but what I can do here to increase my damage is I could set a keep at instead of approaching right now. Do a keep at 2.5k, that would help me. I need to look for opportunities as these ships come in close. If that crow comes within 13k, I need to web him again. Certainly if he comes within 10, I need to try to scram him. Since there is nothing here, you can see now I've moved my camera around to the side so that I can keep track of the, which one is that? Trying to figure out, okay, the crow that had come in close. I'm trying to keep track of him as he orbits around to see if he tries to come in close again. But the right move to make now as that fight's over, try to kill the pod, but start aligning out and put some pressure on these guys to come in and try to tackle me. I want to force their hand so that they make a bad move and they make a mistake. So what I want to do is I want to, ideally, I should be aligning to something away from the gate. I don't know if I am yet. Yes, I am. I'm aligning to the outbound. We got a new interceptor in. I need to align to the outbound, turn on my micro warp drive, and start moving away from the gate so they think I'm about to get outside that bubble and potentially warp off. That'll scare them and say, hold on, we just got to hold them a little bit longer and we'll have reinforcements. I need to watch all the ships on grid. Try to keep them within my screen. There you go. Zoom out. I need to lock everything as it comes onto the field because you never know when somebody like the Stiletto right here, the Stargate, is about to come in close and give me an opportunity. The Crow also came in close. So what I need to do is I should have scrammed him already. I didn't. So let's get a scram and web on that Stiletto. He just scrammed me. He's a bigger threat right now than anybody else because he's scramming me. Now I need to nuke the Stiletto and hopefully that Crow stays close and I can nuke him as well. Not even close to my armor yet. So this fight so far is just a walk in the park. Stiletto's going down fast. I need to go ahead and switch points right now. I should have switched right there to the, I did, okay. The Stiletto got out of range, so he's going to warp off. So now we're on to the Crow. I thought the Stiletto was about to drop, but he had gotten out of range. So the Crow's going down. He's going to go down pretty good. I need to approach him and stay right on top of him, make sure he doesn't get away. We've got a Svepul on grid. Svepul is 16 kilometers away. Svepul is even better than a Saber. He's going to be harder to kill than a Saber, but more value. So I would really like to kill him. I am still not any threat. You can see from my directional, just a quick situational awareness check right now. For one, my drone's taking damage. I should pull that in. I've got backups. It's not such a big deal. There's a Stork, most likely about to land. He's on scan. Otherwise, the scan's pretty clear. There's not too many in system, so most likely there's not a big blob coming at me right now. There's not, I'm not seeing much movement over here. And right now there's nothing within my kill zone, which would be mostly within 10k, but 13k I could get an overheated web right here. So start it back up. Let's just see. I'm going to put some DPS on that Svepul and see if I can draw him in closer. He is coming in closer. I'm approaching the Svepul right now. He is now overheated webbed. I'm approaching him. I've got overheated scram. I'm going to put out my damage drone so I can get a little bit more DPS. That's going to be thermal damage. I've got 5 of them out. That's good. I need to turn off my heat on my scram, my web. The Stiletto or the Stork has just landed, and looks like 2 maledictions have landed as well. Still not a threat. Interceptors are very low DPS, especially all these tackle interceptors. All of these really are just tackle. Maledictions and Stilettos, very low DPS output. Now, if we had a Claw and 2 Crusaders, that would be a different story. But these are just tackle interceptors. So stay focused on the Svepul, maintain situational awareness. Right now, what I'd like to see me do in this video is zoom out and get a better idea of where all these ships are. But what I'm instead focusing on is right now I'm working on my exit strategy, which is selecting something to align to and making sure I am ready to start exiting this scenario because it's starting to get out of hand. You might notice that local over here has changed. It's gone up quite a bit. It's probably doubled since the last time we looked at it. So Svapul is about to go down. He's through his shields. He'll drop pretty quick. I still have not even had to run my AAR, but local is growing pretty quick, faster than I really would like. At this point, it's time to start getting out. So I'm starting to align because right now there's more on grid than I can safely handle. Now maybe if this was it right here, if this was all that was coming, I would stay and fight this. I can take the Magus, I can take the Flycatcher, I can take the Stork, I can take all that. And I can probably tank them long enough to do it. But we're seeing local go up. 5 more have entered that probably haven't landed on grid yet. So what I want to do is just get out of here because it's growing and growing, and it's probably going to keep growing to the point to where it's unmanageable. I've gotten a Saber, I've gotten a Crow, and a Svapul. So now I've had my fun. It's time to leave MJD. Pulled in the drones a little bit late. I might end up leaving them. Nope, I got them. It's good. Still haven't had to run the AAR, and I'm out. Most of them were long tackle, and the shorter tackles hadn't got to me yet because I was slowly moving off the gate throughout the fight. So that worked for me. Now I need to warp to somewhere else. In this situation, the much better move for me wouldn't have been to warp to a customs office at range because they have so many ships here, and you see those 3 Munins right there. I'd have been in trouble. That is enough DPS to break me. But instead of warping to a customs office, there's another video I'm planning on doing, hopefully in the next few days, is a better thing to do would have been to warp to a moon. Now, I know that there's possibly towers at moons, but even when there is, you still can get out in time. I have every single time I've tried. I've never been caught by a pause. So, unless you just sit there or something, and odds are the moon you land on won't have a tower. So, going to moons is usually a little bit safer, but a good fight in local, the end. Set up a safe spot, Control B, mid-warp. There's one of my keyboard shortcuts. And then as soon as I land, I want to warp back to that safe spot because all their tackle is going to be spreading out to all the Celestials in this cluster. When you're trying to warp out and you warp to a cluster, it's always, when you warp to a Celestial, it's always good to warp to a cluster, so it's harder for them to watch where you go and see which one it is. Because if there's 10 things there, then they have 10 options, and the odds of them landing right on top of you are much smaller. If you were to warp to something like just a customs office out by itself, and it was obvious, then their whole fleet would go to that customs office at different ranges. One would go 0, one would go 20, one would go 50, one would go 100, 70, etc. And they would most likely catch you because they're interceptors. They're going to warp there a lot faster than you, and once they land, they're going to be able to lock you pretty quick. But that's pretty much the explanation. Let's go ahead and exit this. There we go. So that pretty much answers the question. The more hectic the fight is, the faster the fight is, the more zoomed out I usually am. Usually it's better to be zoomed out than it is to be zoomed in. You want to be zoomed in or zoomed enough to see everything on grid. But there are cases, and if I had it queued up, I would show you. There are cases where you want to be zoomed in close. Now that's typically in a 1 versus 1 where it's you versus another guy and you see exactly what he's doing. In those situations, you would also benefit from looking at your opponent's ship. And there's a lot of different scenarios where watching your opponent's ship to see when he makes turns, like say he's yo-yoing, or you're trying to yo-yo him in to get a scram in a web, or just trying to watch his ship to see maybe his gun stopped firing, okay, he's reloading. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that you can get from that. So there are times when you want to be zoomed in closer, but in general, I like to stay zoomed out and have a very clear picture and very good grid awareness.